The mock test begins now. आई एम नॉट यूजिंग हेडसेट एट द मोमेंट क्योंकि आवाज़ ऊपर नीचे हो जाती है कई बार आपको सुनना ज़रूरी है इसलिए मैं हेडफोन्स का इस्तेमाल इस मॉक टेस्ट में नहीं कर रहा। ठीक है। अगर आपको वैसे बता देता हूँ कि माइक हेडफोन्स जो आपको यूज़ करने होते हैं वो आपको 3 फिंगर्स का डिफरेंस रखना होता है, लोअर लिप के नीचे हमेशा वो होने चाहिए। जब आप ब्रीद आउट करो तो वो आपके सांस को रिकॉर्ड ना करें, इस तरफ लेफ्ट साइड पे 3 फिंगर्स ऑफ अ डिफरेंस पर होने चाहिए। Hi, my name is Abhinav Rana and I'm testing the mic. Mic testing 1 2 3 4. Hi, my name is Abhinav Rana and I'm testing the mic. Mic testing 1 2 3 4. ऐसा ज़रूरी नहीं होता कि आपको हमेशा अपनी आवाज़ ढंग से ही सुनाई दे। कई बार आवाज़ ढंग से नहीं भी सुनाई देती, और अगर आपको आवाज़ ढंग से नहीं सुनाई देती तो आप लोग उन्हें बोलोगे कि मेरे हेडफोन्स को चेंज कीजिए, मुझे थोड़ी सी डिस्टरबेंस आ रही है। ठीक है। ओके। इंट्रोडक्शन के कोई मार्क्स नहीं होते, जो मर्जी बोल दो, फिर स्पीकिंग और राइटिंग है, फिर रीडिंग है, फिर लिसनिंग है। ओके, लेट्स गेट स्टार्टेड। Please introduce yourself. For example, could you talk about one of them? Hi, my name is Abhinav Rana and I'm doing this PT exam because learning English is my favorite thing to do. Thank you. You can say anything. इसके कोई नंबर नहीं होते, आपका जो मन हो आप बोल सकते हैं, कोई मार्क्स इस चीज़ के नहीं होंगे। Hi, my name is Abhinav Rana and I'm sitting for PT exam because learning English is my favorite thing to do. Okay, I'm using headphones and I forgot to start the recording. I'll do it again. The purpose of informative speech is to provide interesting, useful, and unique information to your audience. By dedicating yourself to the goals of providing information and appealing to your audience, you can take positive steps towards succeeding in your efforts as an informative speaker. 35 सेकेंड्स का प्रेपरेशन टाइम होता है। मैंने हेडफोन्स लगा लिए हैं जो मैं मना कर रहा था पहले, क्योंकि मैं चाहता था कि प्रॉपरली आपको मेरी आवाज़ सुनाई दे। Nature offers no greater splendor than the starry sky on a clear, dark night. Nature offers no greater splendor than the starry sky on a clear, dark night. Silent and jeweled with constellations of ancient myth and legend, the night sky has inspired wonder throughout the ages, a wonder that leads to our imagination far from confines of earth and the pace of the present day and out into the distant reaches of space and cosmic time itself. Nature offers no greater splendor. Nature offers no greater splendor than the starry sky on a clear dark night. Silent and jeweled with constellation of ancient myth and legend, the night sky has inspired wonder throughout the ages, a wonder that leads our imagination far from the confines of earth and the pace of the present day, and out into the distant reaches of space and cosmic time itself. Every morning, no matter how late he had been up, my father rose at 5:30, went to his study, wrote for a couple of hours, made us all breakfast, read the paper with my mother, and then went back to work for the rest of the morning. Every morning, no matter how late he had been up, my father rose at 5:30, went to his study. Every morning, no matter how late he had been up, every morning, no matter how late he had been up, my father rose at 5:30, went to his study. Every morning, no matter how late he had been up, my father rose at 5:30, went to his study, wrote for a couple of hours, made us all breakfast, read the paper with my mother, and then went back to work for the rest of the morning. Many years passed before I realized that he did this for a living. There is every reason to believe that effective regulations are not merely a luxury. There is every reason to believe that effective regulations are not merely a luxury that only the rich can afford, but an important foundation for thriving private sector and economic growth. But the broad pattern of the past 5 years has been the main reform efforts are taking place in rich countries. There is every reason to believe that effective regulations are not merely a luxury. There is every reason to believe that effective regulations are not merely a luxury that only rich can afford, but an important foundation for thriving private sector and economic growth. There is every reason to believe there's every there is every reason to believe that effective regulations are not merely a luxury that only the rich can afford, but an important foundation for thriving private sector and economic growth. But the broad pattern of the past 5 years has been that the main reform efforts are taking place in rich countries. Business school officers, business school admission officers said, excuse me, business school admission officers said the new drive to attract younger students was in part the result of realization that they had inadvertently limited their applicant pool by requiring several years of work experience. Talented students who might otherwise have gone to business school instead opted for a law or policy degree because they were intimidated by expectation of work experience. Business school admissions officers said the new drive to attract younger Business school admission officers said the new drive to attract younger students was in part the result of a realization that they had inherently limited their applicant pool by requiring several years' work experience. Talented students who might otherwise have gone to business school instead opted for a law or policy degree because they were intimidated by the expectation of work experience. The most obvious change is that 46% of the college undergraduates are now women. When I went there, it was only the third year that women had been admitted. About 70% of students were male. The most obvious change is that 46% of the college undergraduates are now women. The most obvious change is that 46% of the college undergraduates. The most obvious change is that 46% of the college undergraduates are now women. The most obvious change is that 46% of the college undergraduates are now women. When I went there, it was only the most obvious change is that 46% of the college undergraduates are now women. When I went there, it was only the third year that women had been admitted, and about 70% of students were male. Repeat sentences. I hope you hear it.
That's along to the rest of the people in your row.
Please stand along with the rest of the people in your row.
The first step was to establish a baseline of known distance.
The first step was to establish a baseline for a known distance.
Politicians make much better decisions when they listen to public opinion.
Politicians make much better decisions. Politicians make much better decisions when they listen to public.
Please take these up to Mr. Mitchell in the chemistry lab.
Please take this up to Mr. Mitchell. Please take up this to Mr. Mitchell in the chemistry lab.
The bus right out in front will take you to the station.
Bus right out in the front. The bus right out in the front will take you to the station.
The head of department isn't available till Thursday.
The head of department is not available till Thursday.
39.5% of California residents do not speak English in the home.
39.5% of the California residents do not speak English at home.
Children are not allowed in tutorial rooms at any time.
Children are not allowed in tutorial rooms at any time.
There are many people in the USA who are critical of their voting system.
There are many people in USA who are critical of their voting system.
Many environment experts are very concerned about the future of our planet.
Many of the armor experts are concerned about the future of our planet. Describe image. 25 seconds का preparation time. Okay. The title of the bar graph is Recent Global Monthly Mean CO2. On x-axis, we have 2004, 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009 as years. On y-axis, we have 374, 376, 378, 380, 382, 384, 386, 388 as parts per million. The minimum is 2004 and the maximum is 2009. The title is Gender Pay Gap, Scotland and UK 1997 to 2005. On x-axis we have this, और इंग्लिश में जो लिखा है उसे as करके बोल देंगे. On y-axis we have this, इंग्लिश में जो लिखा है उसे as करके बोल देंगे. ठीक है. Minimum is 1997 and maximum, sorry, minimum कुछ भी बोल दो, minimum is 2002 and maximum is 1998. The title of the line graph is Gender Pay Gap, Scotland and UK 1997 to 2005. On x-axis, we have 1997, 1998, 1999, 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005 as Scotland pay gap percent, UK pay gap percentage. On y-axis, we have 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 as percent. The minimum is in the year 2003 and the maximum is in the year 1998. The title is Comparison of Fundamental Needs Model with Abraham Maslow Hierarchy of Needs, from self-actualization needs creativity fulfillment, to self-esteem needs respect recognition, to belonging needs friends family love, to safety needs freedom and from fear, to physiological needs food water shelter and warmth, to stimulation needs, to security needs, and status and esteem needs. The title of the bar graph is Journeys per Person per Year, Great Britain. The minimum is, on x-axis we have walk, car, bush, coach and rail other modes. On y-axis we have this. Okay. The minimum is this and the maximum is this. The title of the bar graph is Journeys per Person per Year, Great Britain. On x-axis, we have walk, car, bus, coach, and rail other modes as 1995, 1997, and 2006. On y-axis, we have 0, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700 as numbers. The minimum is walk and the maximum is car. किसी को भी minimum बोल सकते हैं, कोई, you don't have to be correct in this, ठीक है? आगे चलते हैं. The title of the bar graph is Volunteers who incurred expenses reimbursement available. On x-axis, we have postage, phone calls, meals, training, travel cost, uniform, other. On y-axis, we have 0, 10, 20, 34 percentage. The minimum is uniform and the maximum is postage. The title of the bar graph is Volunteers who incurred expenses reimbursement available. On x-axis, we have postage, phone calls, meals, training, travel costs, uniform, other. On y-axis, we have 0, 10, 20, 30, 40 as percentage. The maximum is postage and the minimum is uniform.
What has happened in Latin America as a result of globalization? Well, they have had now more than a decade of what is called reform. A decade of globalization. And throughout the continent, people are asking questions like, has reform failed us? Has globalization failed us? Because clearly things have not worked out the way they were told they ought to. Just to give you a picture, they were told that reform would lead to faster economic growth. After a decade, what are the numbers? In fact, recent growth is far slower than it was in the 50s, 60s and 70s before reform. That is not a very inspiring success story. Even in the beginning part of the 90s, growth was still below what it was in the 50s, 60s and 70s, but the growth it got in the beginning of the period was not sustainable, and it was not sustained. Throughout the region, poverty, as measured on the $2 a day standard as a percentage of the population, was actually up.
The lecture was about Latin America economic growth rate, 1960-2005. They have more than a decade of globalization. Has globalization failed us? Reform led to faster economic growth. Even in the beginning part of the 1950s, the growth of a globalization was very low. Therefore, the poverty is measured at $2 per of a percentage, which was actually gone really up.
The most visible manifestation of this wealth was a series of grand projects that were begun by Napoleon III, mainly in Paris, soon after he came to power in the 1850s. He said, "I want to be a second Augustus," making reference to the Emperor Augustus's claim that he found Rome a city of brick and left it one of marble. In the case of Napoleon III, he found Paris in 1851 a city of cobblestones and twisting medieval streets, and he left it one of asphalt and macadam, because what he began doing was bulldozing old Paris, the ancient medieval part of Paris, and replacing it with wide new boulevards, 85 miles of them, that he lit with some 20,000 gas lamps, which he took out all the old 18th century oil lamps, replaced them with gas, which gave a much cleaner, brighter, regular light. Also, 50,000 trees are planted alongside them, many of them the chestnut trees that we now think of as synonymous with Paris. And he drained the streets with 200 miles of sewers, these new famous Parisian sewers beneath the streets, thereby making the city a much more safer, pleasant place to wander, to stroll, to people watch, to have coffee or absinthe in the cafes.
The lecture was about Paris. Series of grand projects in Paris in 1850. He found Rome city. He also found Paris in 1851. All the Paris, ancient medieval Paris, 20,000 gaps lengths. Much cleaner regular trees, and 50,000 trees were planted as well. He then drained the streets with a lot of sewers. To have coffee and coffee absent in a cafe was a great deal.
Agriculture refers to the production of food and goods through what activity?
I don't know.
What instrument allows you to see distant objects in space?
Microphone. I don't know.
How many years are there in a century?
100. I don't know.
What is used to turn off an electric light?
Switch. I don't know.
How many years are in a decade?
10. I don't know. You can also answer the question, by the way. Summarize group discussion आ गया. मैं note taking करूँगा.
A group of 3 students are talking about the film version of a book they've been studying.
So, what did everyone make of the film then? I absolutely loved her novel, but I've got to admit I was really disappointed by the film adaptation we saw in class. It didn't stay true to the book. The ending was different, it wasn't historically accurate, and the characters didn't really match my idea of who they were, especially the lead.
Well, it's always going to be potentially controversial adapting a book to a film. You're never going to please everyone. I think you've got to take genres like this with an open mind. I can't think of any I've seen that are an exact copy. I thought the book worked on the big screen because it was less about the plot and more about the visuals.
Yeah, it can be hit and miss, can't it? I think it's all about choosing actors and costumes and sets that reflect when the story's set, and the director creating the right mood to bring out the best elements of the book. For me, it ticked all those boxes. I actually thought it was much better than the book.
And sometimes it works better when the scriptwriter goes off on a tangent and has a completely different take on a book, so that it's almost unrecognisable from the book, like ones that are made into musicals. Then the film takes on, like, a life of its own.
But if it's a story I've already read, I want the adaptation to be recognizable at least. Or what's the point? You might as well do something original. Create something from scratch instead, don't you think?
Personally, I'd say anything goes as long as I think it works. And I intentionally avoid looking too much at reviews before seeing an adaptation, because the rating will be heavily influenced by how much the writer loved the book. I want to make up my own mind and decide for myself if I like the film.
Really? I do the opposite. I decide whether or not an adaptation might be worth watching, or any film for that matter, based on the overall rating from the film critics and members of the public. If it's not at least an 80% good rating, I don't bother. Unless we've been told to watch it because we're reading it in class.
Well, here's an idea. Next time, let's all go and watch a film adaptation first before seeing any reviews, and see if our opinions match the ratings. I think it'll be interesting to see how much we agree with each other.
You're on. Well, there's that Jane Austen period drama about to be released, isn't there? What's it called? Let's go to see that.
Let's watch film adaptation first. You can please everyone. I thought books mistake it was not 80% rating at all. 3 students were involved in the group discussion, and the group discussion was about book they were studying. Speaker 1 said that films adapting was different from the book. Speaker 1 further said that Leeds was different too. I want adaptation to be understandable at least, and let's watch film adaptation first. Speaker 2 said that you can't please everyone. I thought book works really well. Speaker 2 further said that film takes life of its own. It is not 80% rating. I do not watch it. Whereas Speaker 3 said that I think it's about choosing actors and characters in the lead role. Speaker 3 further said that I thought it was better than the book. Rating would be influenced by how much a writer liked the book and how much we agree with the writer's adaptations. Speaker 1 then said that film adaptation was different from the book, and lead was different too. I want adaptation to be understandable. Let's watch the film adaptation first. Speaker 2 then said that you can't please everyone. I thought books really works. Film takes life of its own.
Three members of staff are having a meeting about organising a conference in their department.
So, this is our first meeting to try and organise the department's annual conference, and I must say, I'm starting to feel a bit worried. I know I'm a worrier by nature, but there just seems to be so much still to be done, and it's only just over 2 weeks away now, isn't it?
Well, closer to 3 weeks, actually. Anyway, yes, there is quite a lot to do, but I don't think we need to start panicking just yet. The way I see it, the key thing is to be organised. So the first thing is to make a list and prioritize. We've already booked the 2 lecture halls and recreation area, so that's a start.
Yes, so I guess the next thing is we need to work out the order of events and arrange who will give talks and lead the discussions. I've already talked to most of the possible speakers, and I'll confirm things with them. Then we can get going on writing the publicity material and getting it printed.
Thanks. That's already sounding more manageable. I wouldn't mind writing the publicity stuff. I think some posters and small leaflets will be enough, don't you? I know it's open to the public, but I imagine most participants will be from the department. So I reckon it'll be okay to do something on a laptop and just print it off ourselves. We don't need anything too flashy, do we?
No, probably not. But it'd be good to attract some people from outside, or at least from the rest of the college. On that subject, can I make a suggestion? How about getting in a main speaker, Someone a bit more well known in academic circles?
I'm not sure. I mean, I can see how that might attract more people, but the focus of the whole conference is the work of our department. Don't you think having a kind of star guest might draw attention away from that? And also maybe intimidate some of the other speakers who aren't so used to speaking in public?
Actually, I think it's a good idea. In fact, I can think of someone who could do it. She's written a couple of books that were well received, and she's a brilliant speaker, clever and funny. I used to work with her at another college, so I know her a bit. I could contact her if you like.
Well, okay. As long as it's a topic that falls within the general area, that doesn't clash directly with what others are discussing, it could certainly raise our profile and bring in more people. And there's no harm in asking, is there?
Okay, so I'll contact her tomorrow and see if she's free. Meanwhile, Jen, can you talk to the other speakers and discussion leaders and make a list of times and topics? If you can let me know that, I'll make a start on writing the leaflet. And we better schedule the next meeting, maybe for the beginning of next week.
Three students were involved in the group discussion, and the group discussion was about organizing conference in the department. Speaker one said that I'm worrying, but I'm warrior by nature, and it is 2 weeks away. Speaker one further said that posters and leaflets will be enough, and I think it would be okay to do something on the laptop. She has written a couple of books and clever and funny. I can contact her. Speaker two said that there is quite a lot to do, but I don't think we need to start panicking. Speaker 2 further said that we need to prioritize and where we started from. How about getting the main speaker? Speaker 2 further said that it could certainly raise our profile. Speaker 3, on the other hand, said that orders of event and leads to discussion. We can create and write publicly material. Speaker 3 further said that the focus of the whole work should be on the department. Speaker 3 further said that I will contact her tomorrow. Speaker 1 then said that I'm warrior by nature and posters and leaflets will be enough. I think it's okay to do something on the laptop.
You have a part-time job at the university library. Your manager has asked you to work overtime on Saturday, but you'll miss the last bus home. Your friend has a car and might be able to help. What would you say to them?
Hi, this is to state that I have a part-time job at university library and my manager asked me to work overtime on Saturday, but I will miss the last bus. In this situation, I want to ask, since there is no bus after 9 p.m. on Saturday, could you please drop me to my home in your vehicle as I do not have a car by myself? I would be really thankful if you could please drop me home as I would be struggling to find the transport and the bus otherwise. Looking forward for your assistance in the above matter, friend. Thank you so much. You're in class at
You are in a class at college. The two students sitting next to you keep talking to each other. You can't hear anything your teacher is saying. What would you say to them?
Hi, this is to state that I am in a class at the college and the two students sitting next to me keep talking to each other. I can't hear anything because teacher is saying something and I can't hear it. In this situation, I want to say that please let me focus on what teacher is saying because I can't hear her because you're being too loud. Could you please keep quiet when the lecture is going on? I would be thankful if you do not speak the next time because I've already missed a lot of important information. Thank you so much for your assistance, friends. Looking forward for your help in the above matter. This year's, okay. This year is starting with this, but it's not रिप्लेसिंग एनीथिंग, तो ये आप लिख सकते हैं। ये लाइन उठा लेता हूं यहां तक। दीज साइंटिस्ट को इग्नोर कर देते हैं, दीज से है। द अदर विनर, ओके, इसको इग्नोर करके देखते हैं। गोरे टोल्ड द वर्ल्ड इन हिज एकेडमी, इसको लिख सकते हैं और लास्ट लाइन लिख देंगे बस। कॉमा, स्पेस, एंड गोरे टोल्ड द वर्ल्ड, एंड नाम है किसी का तो जी कैपिटल। लाइन के बीच में कुछ कैपिटल में लिखा हुआ है तो आप उसे कैपिटल में ही लिखेंगे, इसका मतलब कि वो आएगा ही कैपिटल में। लाइन के बीच में कुछ कैपिटल में लिखा हुआ है। सेमीकोलन, स्पेस, मोर ओवर, कॉमा। फिफ्टी सिक्स वर्ड्स हो गए। 1.8 लिखा हुआ है, इस लाइन को लिखते ही नहीं, मतलब इसको 1 लिख दूंगा मैं, ठीक है। द बेस्ट स्टडी, सेमीकोलन, स्पेस, furthermore, comma, the best study shows that by 79 वर्ड्स हो गए। मुझे अब कुछ काटना पड़ेगा क्योंकि 75 की लिमिट है। रिगार्ड द बेस्ट स्टडी शोज दैट बाय 2050, सीधा लिख देते हैं हीट विल क्लेम। इसको काट देता हूँ। 72 रह गए। लास्ट में फुल स्टॉप है, बीच में कहीं फुल स्टॉप तो नहीं लगा दिया मैंने गलती से? अब एक एक वर्ड 4 मिनट चेक करते हैं। दिस ईयर्स नोबल पीस प्राइज justly rewards the thousands thousands of scientists of the United Nations climate change panel, and Gore told the world in his Academy Award winning movie to expect 5-meter sea level rises over this century. Moreover, Gore also takes no notice of research showing that Greenland's temperatures were higher in 1941 than they are today. Furthermore, heat will claim 400,000 more lives, but 1 million fewer will die because of cold. ठीक है, सब ठीक है, कुछ रह तो नहीं गया। ओके, सब सही है। एक ही फुल स्टॉप है, कहीं और तो नहीं लग गया? ऐसे ही देखता रहता हूँ मैं पेपर में भी, बार बार पागल हो जाओ उस चीज के पीछे। ठीक है, नेक्स्ट। एक और आ गया। दिस पेपर हाइलाइट्स। जब स्टार्टिंग दिस से हो तो लिख सकते हैं, क्योंकि वो किसी और को रेफर नहीं कर रहा, इसका मतलब। यहां से भी शुरू कर सकते हो। ट्रैवल एंड टूरिज्म जनरेट्स दिस पेपर हाइलाइट्स दैट। रखना काटना चाहते हो काट सकते हो, यहां से भी शुरू कर सकते हो। इसको यहां तक लिख देते हैं, इकॉनमी तक। एंड जॉब्स। सेमीकोलन स्पेस मोर ओवर कॉमा लास्ट लाइन लिख देता हूँ बस। लास्ट में फुल स्टॉप लगा दिया। बचा हुआ 6 मिनट बचे हुए, चेक कर लेते हैं। ट्रैवल एंड टूरिज्म जनरेट्स, स्पेलिंग ठीक है, जनरेट्स ठीक है, डायरेक्टली एंड इनडायरेक्टली लार्ज परसेंटेज ऑफ जीडीपी एंड a huge number of jobs in the worldwide economy ठीक है, economy is fine, which can be expected to continue to grow. Jobs generated by travel and tourism are spread across the economy. Moreover, tourism has a comparative advantage in that its startup and running cost can be low compared to many other forms of industry development. लास्ट में फुल स्टॉप। से बहुत पुराने टेस्ट बने हुए हैं। यू वुड नॉट फाइंड ऐसे इन दिस मॉक टेस्ट, जो हमारी प्रिडिक्शन फाइल के होते हैं, ये पुराने होते हैं, कभी आए भी नहीं होते। ठीक है, तो पर हमें ऐसे लिख के दिखाना तो हम लिख लेंगे। आर्ट्स, जब 11th क्लास में इंडिया में अपने अपनी कंट्रीज में हम लोग सब्जेक्ट चूज करते हैं, तो जब कहते हैं घर वालों को भी 11वीं में आर्ट्स लेनी है, पढ़ता ना थप्पड़ कई बार, वही कुछ इंजीनियरिंग कर ले, मेडिसिन कर ले। तो वही कह रहा है कि दुनिया पागल हो गई मेडिसिन पढ़ाते हुए चक्कर में, कि यही आपको करियर बना के देगा, एमबीबीएस कर ले यही करियर बनाएंगे, इसी में पैसा है। और ह्यूमैनिटीज और आर्ट्स कोई पढ़ नहीं रहा है। इसके ऊपर ऐसे इन्होंने मॉक टेस्ट में दिया है। ऑनेस्टली ये ऐसे कभी जिंदगी में रियल एग्जाम में नहीं आएगा, बट फिर भी अब है तो इसको करना है, और करके मैं आपको दिखा देता हूँ। ठीक है। क्वेश्चन कॉपी पेस्ट करना है, यहां से कर देता हूँ। इस लाइन पे हूं, कितनी बार एंटर क्लिक करके दूसरी लाइन पे जाऊं? 2 बार, 1 2। टेम्पलेट की लाइन में डाल रहा हूँ, जो एग्जैक्ट लाइन मेरे टेम्पलेट में है। एंड इन्वॉल्व्स अ वाइड रेंज ऑफ पर्सपेक्टिव्स एंड, क्योंकि मैंने खुद से कुछ भी लिख दिया, आप कहोगे टेम्पलेट की लाइन नहीं लिखी इसलिए लिख दी। ठीक है, खुश हो जाओ।
एक दो।
एक दो from वर्ड लिमिट ज़्यादा हो रही है, 3 मिनट हो गए। ऐसा करते हैं, वो लाइन काट देते हैं, या इसकी काटे कोई, इसकी काट दूँ तो डिबेट सराउंडिंग, ये वाली काट देता हूँ, काट दी। तो 97 वर्ड्स हो गए। अब देखो कितनी सारी गलतियां तो मुझे दिख ही रही हैं। स्टडिंग के स्पेलिंग में देखो, स्टडिंग एक और, ये मैंने वाई क्यों लगाना भूल गया स्टडिंग में। स्टडिंग मेडिसिन is majorly because of wealth this would generate and इमेंस में डबल ई नहीं एम नहीं डाला, डबल स्पेसिंग होगी। लेवल्स में लियाबल्स लिख दिया। टाइप करते गलतियां होती हैं, हमेशा 1 मिनट बचा हुआ होना चाहिए। रिक्रूटमेंट रेट की जगह लिख देता हूँ हायर जॉब अपॉर्चुनिटीज। When choosing which subject to opt for should be an individual's own choice, and they should not be pushed to study medicine when their actual interest is in humanities or arts. Furthermore, choosing humanities or arts may lead to great career opportunities too. In today's fast-paced world, it is crucial to consider the long-term impact of the value of humanities. For instance, according to a recent survey data, 55% of the participants reported negative experience with forcefully studying medicine or engineering. Hence, considering the benefits the subjects of arts or humanities provide, we should ensure that we should not run away from considering it as a subject of study. From what has been discussed above, it can be concluded that important to study either humanities or medicine depending on your interest and the area. लो जी, अब आ गए हमारे फिल इन द ब्लैंक्स। हमारे पास पहले नोट करो सब लोग कि कितना टाइम मिला है। 25 मिनट मिले हैं हमें, पूरे 25 मिनट्स मिले हैं पूरी रीडिंग को ख़त्म करने के लिए। अब जब रीडिंग जैसा टॉपिक आपके पास आएगा तो आपको दो चीज़ों का खास ध्यान रखना है। नंबर वन, कि आपको एमसीक्यू मल्टीपल पे ज़्यादा टाइम स्पेंड नहीं करना। एमसीक्यू मल्टीपल पे आपको ज़्यादा टाइम स्पेंड नहीं करना। आपको कोशिश करनी है कि आप सारा टाइम इसी ब्लैंक पे लगा दें, ठीक है। ये जो ब्लैंक्स है बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट होते हैं, ठीक है, ओके। A creature may have a fine physical defense such as hard armor or sharp spine, ठीक है। A creature may have a fine physical defense such as hard armor होगा, उसका sharp spine होगी। It may have powerful chemical defenses such as a dash smell, agreeable smell नहीं, enchanting smell enchanting नहीं होती, ordinary smell तो आम हो गई ना, appalling smell जिसमें shocking लगे कुछ, okay। But none of these defenses is much used in the dash for survival unless the animal also has the right behavior to go with it. सरवाइव करने की स्ट्रगल होती है, कैंपेन मार्च और गेम तो होती नहीं, ठीक है जी। एवोल्यूशन शेप्स अ लिविंग क्रीचर साइज, एवोल्यूशन शेप करती है क्रीचर का साइज, कलर एंड अदर डैश एवोल्यूशन शेप करती है, लिविंग क्रीचर का साइज शेप करती है, कलर भी शेप करती है, पीसेस होते हैं, आदमी के फीचर्स होते हैं, स्पेक्ट होती है, शेप्स होती हैं ना, एंड अदर शेप्स। अदर फीचर्स नहीं होंगे क्योंकि फीचर्स तो एक ही है, शेप्स हो सकती हैं। इट ऑल्सो हैपन्स it also shapes an animal's action and behavior pattern. The most dash behaviors are instinctive. The most dash behaviors are instinctive or inbuilt. The most dash behaviors are instinctive. हमारा कोई भी जो ऑटोमेटिक बिहेवियर है वो इंस्टिंक्टिव होता है या फिर इनबिल्ट होता है. In other words, the creature can perform the actions without having to learn what to do and how to do it by dash and error. हम कहते हैं ना ट्रायल एंड एरर है, ट्रायल एंड एरर, ठीक है, ट्रायल एंड एरर कर दो. लो जी. The research challenges ongoing trend across higher education, institutes HEC of an experiential learning and suggests that universities okay, ये एक हमारे पास ऐसे भी है एक्सपीरियंशियल लर्निंग का, वो भी मतलब ध्यान रखना. ओके. And those emphasized by learning by doing approach in entrepreneurship education. The research challenges the ongoing trend across higher education institutions of dash and experiential learning and suggests that universities need to reconsider the approach. हमारा आज का सारा कुछ क्या है, कि हमारा फोकसिंग और एक्सपीरियंशियल लर्निंग पे ध्यान है, बट वो कह रहे हैं इसको रिकंसिडर करो. इफ अगर उन्होंने ओनर बनाने हैं बच्चों को, मतलब बिजनेसमैन बनाना है, ठीक है, इफ दे आर टू इंक्रीज entrepreneurship among their students, entrepreneurship education dash is a major force capable. Entrepreneurship education is seen as a major force capable of generating long term. कहता भी आज तक यूनिवर्सिटीज़ जो है चेला ही बना रही है सबको, लेकिन आजकल जो अब उनको जो है थोड़ा सा इस चीज़ पे भी ध्यान देना चाहिए कि वो सिर्फ चेला ना बनाए लोगों को, चेला के साथ साथ बिजनेसमैन भी बनाए. ठीक है, पहले फोकस किस पे था, इस पे फोकसिंग और एक्सपीरियंशियल लर्निंग पे काम था. अब जो है चेला चेला ना बनाए और भी चीज़ों पे ध्यान दे. ठीक है. There is an ongoing shift towards experiential learning and business school. कहता आजकल जो है लोग जो है बिजनेस स्कूल जाना पसंद करते हैं, पर ऐसा कोई कहता कोई खास बेनिफिट नहीं है कि ये कोई ऐसा कुछ खास हमने स्टडी नहीं करी कि ये जो बिजनेसमैन बना रहे हो इसके कोई खास ही फायदे हैं. कहता येट होगा यहाँ पे पक्का, सिंस या येट में से येट होगा, सिंस तो हो ही नहीं सकता. येट देयर इज एन लिटिल एम्पेरिकल एविडेंस टू सजेस्ट दिस अप्रोच हैज बेटर इम्पैक्ट ऑन ट्रेडिशनल लर्निंग. लो जी, अगला क्वेश्चन करते हैं. हमें हमेशा ऊपर टाइम पे ध्यान देना है. इस टास्क में हमें मेक श्योर करना है कि हमारा टाइम जो है वो ज़्यादा ना निकल जाए, क्योंकि ऊपर टाइम निकल गया तो हम पूरा पेपर नहीं कर पाएंगे. ठीक है, इस चीज़ का खास ध्यान रखना. चलो. न्यू टेक्नोलॉजीज आर हेल्पिंग सिटीज रिप्लेस फेलिंग वाटर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर. ठीक है, कह रहा न्यू टेक्नोलॉजीज आई हैं जो हेल्प कर रही हैं. किस चीज़ में हेल्प कर रही हैं? जो फेलिंग वाटर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर था उसको रिप्लेस करने में हेल्प कर रही हैं. ठीक है, उसके बाद आगे पढ़ते हैं. Piping systems allow polymer-based materials to be inserted into the old pipes to repair faults and dash leaks and reduce leaks without having to dig. कहते हैं कि ऐसी पाइप बनाई है जिसमें लीकेज नहीं होगा. When it comes to managing wastewater, new systems are dash are emerging. नए नए सिस्टम आ रहे हैं. पहले यही होता ना कि पहले कोई पाइप लगा दी पुराने ज़माने की, उसमें लीकेज होगी, ये हो गया वो हो गया. कहता अब नई चीज़ें आ रही हैं, नई तरह की चीज़ें आ रही हैं, इमर्ज हो रही हैं. क्या आया नया? एडवांस इमोबलाइज सेल रिएक्टर टेक्नोलॉजी आई है, विच यूजेस अ सिस्टम बेस्ड ऑन द इमोबलाइजेशन ऑफ बैक्टीरिया, रिड्यूसिंग द पावर इन लैंड एरिया नीडेड फॉर कन्वेंशनल वेस्ट वाटर ट्रीटमेंट सिस्टम. एंड कंपनीज have realized that much can be achieved by re-examining their products at the dash stage. और companies ने realize किया that much can be achieved by re-examining their products at the dash stage, at the development stage, है ना, डेवलपमेंट की स्टेज पे ही सारा कुछ टेस्ट करके दे दो ताकि फाइनल प्रोडक्ट बने तो ठीक हो. बाय डिजाइनिंग आइटम्स दैट कैन बी मोर इजीली पिक्ड अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट यूजिंग फ्यूअर डिफरेंट मटेरियल्स इन द कंस्ट्रक्शन, कंपनीज कैन इंक्रीज डैश कंटेंट. By designing items that can be more easily picked apart and that use fewer different materials in the construction, companies can increase the dash content of the what they produce. Companies can increase the disposable content, repeatable content, recyclable content, है ना. इससे वेस्ट कट होगा और कॉस्ट सेविंग हमारे, और इससे हमारा रीयूज भी हो जाएगा. रीयूज है तो रिसाइकलिंग ही तो आएगा, और क्या आएगा. ठीक है, अब आगे चलते हैं. अर्बन प्लानिंग अप्रोचेस टू डैश अर्बन प्लानिंग अप्रोचेस टू डैश नॉइज ऑन अ सिटी बाय सिटी बेसिस. ठीक है, अर्बन प्लानिंग अप्रोचेस टू डैश noise on city by city basis. Okay, can be as simple as taking a single lane away. Can be as simple as taking a single lane away, giving for cars, bicycle, people green and space, improving and expanding and properly funding public transit removes cars from the road, both reducing the sound they produce, आएगा यहाँ पे पक्का, and replacing it. चलो आगे. Urban planning approaches to dash approaches to एक इकट्ठा फ्रेज है, इसके बाद आईएनजी लग सकता है, मुंह से इकट्ठा निकलने वाला फ्रेज है. टू के बाद वैसे आईएनजी नहीं लगता, बट इसके आगे अप्रोचेस लगा हुआ है तो यह आ जाता है. अर्बन प्लानिंग इस तरीके से हो रही है कि वो एलिमिनेट कर सके जो आजकल शोर मच रहा है सिटीज में, बहुत ज्यादा शोर मच रहा है. ठीक है, कार को रिड्यूस करो जो साउंड वो प्रोड्यूस कर रही है, दे प्रोड्यूस. ठीक है, इन आर्किटेक्चर अकोस्टिक्स शुड प्ले अ ग्रेटर रोल आएगा, ये तो पता ही लग रहा है बिना ब्लैंक के. नॉइज कंट्रोल, बस नॉइज को कैसे बचाएं. नॉइज कंट्रोल शुड बी कंसिडरेशन फ्रॉम द वेरी फर्स्ट प्लानिंग स्टेज दैन टैग्ड एज अ आफ्टर थॉट. भाई बाद में ना सोचना, रैदर दैन टैग्ड ऑन एज एन आफ्टर थॉट. बाद में मत सोचना, पहले ही सिटी उसी हिसाब से बनाओ कि सब कुछ सही रहे. Used in a variety of courses in various disciplines, asking the right questions helps students. Bridge the gap between simply memorizing or blindly accepting information and greater challenges of critical analysis and synthesis. Okay. अब इसमें देखते हैं जहां पे ब्लैंक है. डैश दिस कंसाइज टेक्स्ट टीचर्स स्टूडेंट्स टू थिंक क्रिटिकली. Dash exploring the components of arguments. Okay. Issues, conclusions, reasons, emphasis, assumptions, language, and how to spot fallacies and manipulations and obstacles. Okay. आओ देखते हैं. Used in a variety of courses in various disciplines, asking the right questions helps students bridge the gap between simply memorizing or blindly accepting information and the greater challenge of critical analysis and synthesis. Dash this concise text teaches students to think critically. क्योंकि वो आस्क कर रहे हैं सिंपल क्वेश्चन, इस रीजन की वजह से वो और अच्छे से सोच सकते हैं और अच्छे से चीज़ों को कर सकते हैं. और उसके बाद है टू थिंक क्रिटिकली. डैश एक्सप्लोरिंग द कॉम्पोनेंट्स ऑफ आर्ग्यूमेंट्स. By exploring the components of arguments, issues, conclusions, reasons, evidence, assumptions, language, and how to spot facilities and manipulations and obstacles, dash critical thinking in both written and visual communication. To critical thinking in, हाँ ये सारी चीज़ें चल रही हैं, उसके साथ continuation में 2 आ गया. It teaches them dash to alternative points. It teaches them to respond to alternative points. बिल्कुल सही है. लो जी, एमसीक्यू मल्टीपल आ गया, कर दिया स्किप, कर दिया स्किप, कर दिया स्किप। कभी भी एमसीक्यू मल्टीपल आए आपको हमेशा उस क्वेश्चन को स्किप करना है, याद रखना। एमसीक्यू मल्टीपल अगर कभी भी आपको आता है, आपको एमसीक्यू मल्टीपल को स्किप कर देना है, ठीक है। तो प्लीज़ मेक श्योर ये आप लोग लिख भी लो। मैंने उस क्वेश्चन को देखा तक भी नहीं है, आप लोग अगर इसको देखते हो तो प्रॉब्लम आ सकती है, ठीक है। ओके, इसे देखते हैं। पहला सेंटेंस ढूंढते हैं पहले। आज ही आपने इसका लेक्चर लगाया है तो देख सकते हैं। दैट मेयर एग्रेसिव, दैट से शुरू नहीं हो सकता। वन रिव्यू पॉइंटेड, कौन सा रिव्यू पता नहीं। दे आर स्टार्टिंग, हु आर स्टार्टिंग। एजुकेशन स्कॉलर्स जनरली एग्री दैट मेयर्स कैन हेल्प फेलिंग स्कूल्स डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स। ओके, education scholars generally agree that mayors can help failing school districts, ठीक है। उसके बाद है that mayor aggressive control over schools was criticized by reducing parents' influence, नहीं। One review pointed to a certain big city's mayor style as an example of what not to do. They are starting, however, to utter warnings. Education scholars generally agree that mayors can help failing districts. One review pointed to a certain big city mayor's style as an example of what not to do. They are starting, however, to utter warnings. Okay, ये ऊपर आएगा, ये आएगा सेकंड पे, ये आएगा थर्ड पे, ठीक है। They are starting, however, to utter warnings. One review pointed to a certain big that mayor what not that mayor aggressive control. क्या नहीं करना, aggressive control नहीं दिखाना, बस। Once you have done this, done what? Get them down. Get them down from what? To be a good listener, you must learn to focus and concentrate on the main points of the lecture. ठीक है। Get them down, get them down and then later reorganize them in your own words. अभी down करो। Your main job in taking lecture notes is to be a good listener. To be a good listener. Okay, ये सबसे पहले आएगा। Object, good listener लास्ट में, सब्जेक्ट बन गया, सबसे ऊपर आएगा। उसके बाद ये आएगा दूसरे पे, ये आएगा तीसरे पे, ये आएगा चौथे पे। Your main job in taking lecture notes is to be a good listener. ठीक है जी। To be a good listener, object becomes the subject. आखिरी का टुकड़ा पहला टुकड़ा बन गया। You must learn to focus and concentrate on the main points of the lecture. ठीक है जी। Get them down. Get them down क्या? Main points को get them down कर दो and then reorganize them in your words. Once you have done this, your बस सही है, 100% सही है। ठीक है, हमेशा अपने ये देखना है कि कोई पहला इंडिपेंडेंट सेंटेंस कौन सा है। अगर आपको इंडिपेंडेंट सेंटेंस का पता लग गया, आपको बहुत कुछ पता लग गया इसका मतलब, क्योंकि पहला सेंटेंस ढूंढना होता है। मैंने जल्दी से पहला कोई चूज किया, बाद में देखा कि नहीं, इससे भी पहले कुछ है जो मुझे देखना चाहिए था, जिस पे मैंने ध्यान नहीं दिया था, वो मैंने बाद में देखा और जल्दी जल्दी कर दिया। यही मेरी अप्रोच रियल एग्जाम में भी होती है, ठीक है। तो यही मैं रियल एग्जाम में भी करता हूँ, यही मेरा तरीका है। ओके, आओ देखते हैं। Australia is a dynamic multicultural society viewed by many as the world's most desirable place to live. Here, Frank Wells traces Australia's intriguing and varied history to dash how this society dashed from its ancient origin. How this society emerged ही आएगा यहाँ तो पहले ही, इसको कर दूं पहले। मतलब कई बार अगर आपको सेकंड वाला ब्लैंक पहले दिख रहा है तो आप सेकंड वाले को भी पहले चूज कर सकते हो। अभी पहले वाला मैंने देखा भी नहीं और दूसरे वाला मिल गया। चलो आगे चलते हैं, जो मिल रहे हैं पहले वो ढूंढ लेते हैं। And earliest British convict dash tribes and earliest British convict dash to today's modern nation, one that dash strong with colonial past but it's dash independent diverse। ठीक है जी। इसके बाद आ गया, अब हम शुरू से पढ़ते हैं। ऑस्ट्रेलिया इज अ डायनामिक मल्टीकल्चरल सोसाइटी, पता हमें, व्यूड बाय मेनी ऑफ द वर्ल्ड्स मोस्ट डिजायरेबल प्लेस टू लिव। हेयर फ्रैंक वेल्स ट्रेसेस ऑस्ट्रेलियाज इंट्रीगिंग एंड वेरिड हिस्ट्री to dash how this society वो उठा रहा है उसकी ट्रेसेस को एग्जामिन करने के लिए कि कैसे ये सोसाइटी बनी, अबोरिजिनल से बनी, और कैसे यहाँ जो है ब्रिटिश कन्विक्ट की जो सेटलमेंट्स हुई हैं इन टुडेज मॉडर्न नेशन, इसकी ब्रिटिश कन्विक्ट की जो सेटलमेंट हुई है इन टुडेज नेशन, one that dash strong link, one that retains strong links with the colonial past but is dash independent and diverse, but is unifies but is increasingly waveringly, अगर waveringly आता तो वो होता unwaveringly होता वहां पे, ठीक है, तो इसलिए increasingly independent और diverse है जो। चलो, no two siblings are same, not even identical twins. Parents often dash about why their children are so different from one another. Parent often raised, puzzle, compensate, bought, suggest, interpret, determines. आप इसमें से चूज कर सकते हो, लेकिन आप इसको अभी के लिए सेकंड, हमेशा इस टास्क में ये चीज का ध्यान रखना कि आपको हमेशा इस टास्क में सेकंड ऑप्शन की तरफ भागना है। मेरा हमेशा से यही रहा है कि अगर पहले वाले पे ज्यादा ध्यान ना देके सेकंड वाले पे भाग जाओ, ठीक है। उससे ये बेनिफिट होता है कि अगर आपको पहले वाला नहीं भी मिल रहा या कुछ भी है तो आपको सेकंड वाले की वजह से काफ़ी वो मिल जाता है, ठीक है। चलो आओ, पेरेंट्स जो है कई बार बड़े डैश होते हैं कि वाई देयर चिल्ड्रन आर सो डिफरेंट फ्रॉम वन अनदर। आ, एक जो है दो जुड़वा भी बच्चे होंगे, वो एक तो बन जाएगा डॉक्टर और दूसरा बन जाएगा कोई गुंडा, है ना। तो वो कहते हैं कि ऐसा क्या है कि पेरेंट्स हमेशा ध्यान में रहते, भाई हमारे ही तो हैं, बेचारा एक डॉक्टर बन गया और एक नालायक निकल आया। पेरेंट्स ऑफर डैश, पेरेंट्स ऑफर डैश, वो आपको पता लग ही गया होगा। दिल से आई डैश देम अप, वो बोलते हैं कि मैंने तो इनको इकट्ठे ही पैदा बड़ा किया है। दे फॉरगॉट दैट व्हाट डैश आवर बिहेवियर इजंट व्हाट हैपेंस टू अस, वो भूल जाते हैं कि एक बच्चे की बनावट में वो ये चीज़ें वो करती हैं, ना कि ये चीज़ें। अब ये क्वेश्चन बिल्कुल क्लियर है, माँ बाप के दुख और समस्या की बात हो रही है कि दो बच्चे थे, एक नालायक हो गया, एक वो हो गया, ठीक है। पेरेंट्स ऑफन पजल, वो कहते हैं हमने दोनों को एक जैसे ही तो तरीके से पाला पोसा है। दे फॉरगेट दैट व्हाट डैश आर बिहेवियर, जो हमारा बिहेवियर को बनाता है वो ये नहीं होता कि हमें कैसे पाला पोसा गया है, बल्कि ये होता है कि हम अपनी समझ से चीजों को कैसे इंटरप्रेट करते हैं। आई डोंट नो व्हाई आई एम एक्सप्लेनिंग दिस। अब ऑब्वियसली पढ़ा पढ़ा के आपको मॉक टेस्ट के टाइम पे ही एक्सप्लेन करने लग गया, तो ये मेरा कोई मेन मकसद नहीं है मॉक टेस्ट को करने का कि मैं आपको यहाँ पे भी समझाऊं, वो क्लासेस हैं उसके लिए। बट एनीवे, आओ देखते हैं। The people of Alaska Island have long been accustomed to shipwrecks. They have been part of the local consciousness since Japanese whaling ship ran dash near the western end. Ship हमेशा ग्राउंड रैन होती है, ये याद कर लेना, ठीक है। वोल्केनिक आर्किपेलागो, ये मैंने किया हुआ है क्वेश्चन, पहले बच्चों को कराया हुआ है, ये वही आ गया। This wreck inadvertently named one island Rat Island when the ship's rodents secrete ashore. मतलब ये थोड़ा सा कॉम्प्लिकेटेड है, बट सिंस आई हैव डन इट बिफोर आई नो व्हाट द आंसर्स फॉर द क्वेश्चन वुड बी, लेकिन आप इसे ढंग से देख लेना, ठीक है। तो ये क्वेश्चन आपको मिल जाएगा, आई थिंक ये बहुत पेपर में आता भी है, इसका नाम ही शिपरेक्स है, मतलब इस क्वेश्चन का नाम भी शिपरेक्स है, क्योंकि मैंने लास्ट टाइम भी बताया था कि ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, आप इसे लिख लेना, और इसमें थोड़ी सी कॉम्प्लिकेटेड ये चीज़ें यूज होती हैं, सो जस्ट बी केयरफुल। ओके, सिंस द लास्ट पैपल रिफॉर्म्स, ये भी मैंने कराया हुआ बच्चों को। सेवरल डैश हैव बीन ऑफर्ड टू मेक वेस्टर्न कैलेंडर मोर यूजफुल। सिंस द लास्ट पैपल रिफॉर्म्स सेवरल प्रपोजल्स, बहुत प्रपोजल करे गए कि वेस्टर्न कैलेंडर को ज़्यादा यूजफुल किया जाए, या फिर एटलीस्ट ज़्यादा रेगुलर किया जाए, मोर यूजफुल और मोर रेगुलर। वेरी फ्यू रिफॉर्म्स हैव गेन्ड ऑफिशियल डैश, बहुत सारे जो उन्होंने प्रपोजल दिए, बहुत सारे जो रिफॉर्म दिए, उनमें से बहुत कम को ऑफिशियल एक्सेप्टेंस मिला है। बस अब तो जब 3 MCQ सिंगल है, टाइम बचा हुआ 4 मिनट, तो कर लो, अगर टाइम ना बचता तो
गोली मारती इसको, अब कर लो। ठीक है, मैं ज्यादा टाइम नहीं लगा रहा इस पे, मैं भी तुक्का मार के आगे जा रहा हूँ, आप लोग पढ़ के कर देना टाइम अगर बचा हुआ। वैसे तो इसके लिए टाइम ही नहीं बचाना होता, मैंने ये ध्यान नहीं दिया कि दो क्वेश्चन ही तो रह गए थे। मेरा कैमरा क्यों बंद किया? ये दो क्वेश्चन ही तो रह गए थे, मैंने ध्यान नहीं दिया, मैं सारा टाइम पिछ सेकंड लास्ट क्वेश्चन पे ही लगा देता काश, बट वो मैंने पहले इतनी बार किए हुए हैं, मुझे पता ही था उसका आंसर। तो आप लोग क्या करना, व्हेन यूल बी ऑन 14th क्वेश्चन, आप 14th क्वेश्चन पे पूरी जान लगा देना, जो लास्ट के दो रह जाएंगे उसे इग्नोर कर देना। ठीक है, बचाना ही मत टाइम इसके लिए। आओ जी, अब आ गया समराइज स्पोकन टेक्स्ट। मैं एक बार नोट टेकिंग के लिए एक पेपर ले लेता हूं, क्योंकि मुझे नोट्स लिखने पड़ेंगे समराइज स्पोकन टेक्स्ट के लिए। चलो आओ। टाइम काउंट ही हो रहा है ये। चलो,
Let's just talk a little bit about a telescope. Our eye is the telescope we all are used to. It's a little tiny 5 millimeter telescope, and it serves us very well. But if we make telescopes bigger, we get a couple good things. We have larger telescopes and they collect a lot more light, so we can see things that are fainter. But it turns out they greatly improve detail. And that's because of the nature that light is a wave, and wave effects, or what we call quantum mechanical effects, mean that when you use a little telescope to look at waves, it becomes blurry through what we call diffraction. And so larger telescopes are extremely useful to improve detail. The other thing that telescopes allow us to do is to put modern digital detectors behind them. Our eye is about the same sensitivity as a photographic plate. A photographic plate can be sat there and it can look at the sky for an hour, so it can see fainter. But modern digital detectors are almost 100 times more efficient than our eyes at collecting light. And so you can improve things by a factor of 100. That's like building a telescope 10 times bigger. And so that improvement has been one of the things that's allowed astronomy to do so much in the optical regime in the last 30 years.
Astronomy is able to do so much in this regime in the last 30 years.
The
73 वर्ड्स हो गए, 3 वर्ड काटने पड़ेंगे क्योंकि 70 की लिमिट है। ठीक है, इसको काट दूं, ही शेड्स लाइट ऑन द फैक्ट दैट, इन एडिशन कर देते हैं, सिंपल। 66 वर्ड्स हो गए, चलो जी। ओके, अब देखते हैं। The lecture encapsulated that our eye is a telescope. Moreover, if we make telescope bigger, it can generally improve details. Furthermore, ये क्या लिख दिया, quantum mechanics are useful tool. He then asserted that modern digital detector is behind some telescopes. In addition, it is 100 times more efficient than an eye collecting light. Overall, astronomy is able to do so much in this regime in the last 30 years. चलो जी, अब 19 मिनट्स मिलेंगे हमें पूरी लिसनिंग क्वेश्चन नंबर 2 से क्वेश्चन नंबर 8 तक करनी है। 19 मिनट शुरू हो चुके हैं। ऑडियो सुननी है, एमसीक्यू मल्टीपल है, एंजॉय करना ऑडियो को, सब लोग आंसर्स सोचना क्या होगा।
In his book, The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat and Other Clinical Tales, urologist Oliver Sacks relates the tale of a medical student who one day woke up and found that his sense of smell was so acute that, like a dog, he could walk around identifying people, places, and things by his sense of smell. And what a wondrous experience it was. Like a visit to another world, he said. Normally, we humans don't have a sense of smell as acute as many other animals. We tend to rely more on what we see or hear to tell us about the world. Still, our sense of smell is powerful. Most of us can detect 10,000 different odors, from cigar smoke to a chlorinated swimming pool, from curry to a city sewer. And think about how a particular odor can instantly conjure up past memories. Maybe it's fresh cut grass that makes you think of childhood summers, or baking bread that reminds you of a special holiday.
एक ही चूज करके आगे चल पड़ो। फिर से आ गया एमसीक्यू मल्टीपल, 2 या 3 आएंगे। पहला टास्क।
Hello, what can I do for you?
We were hoping that you might be able to give us some advice about accommodation for next year.
Where do you live at the moment?
We're in one of the halls of residence.
Oh, is it okay?
Yeah, it's okay, yeah.
But a few problems. It can get a bit noisy some nights, so hard to study.
Yeah, and also the internet connection just keeps going down. It's a real pain.
No, that's not good, is it? So you want to move out?
Yeah, possibly rented accommodation?
Well, it's very common. Most students do this in the second year. It's far more private, you get more independence.
And of course, you have to pay for it. It is more expensive, isn't it?
Generally, yes, but there's a range. Also, you may have to pay for services sort of on top of your rent, like gas and electricity, and the television license.
Yeah, but still probably better on balance. How do we go about that?
Well, here's a list of approved accommodation. You contact the owner direct to arrange a viewing, and any problems, just come back to me.
Right, that's very helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The building is not wired. Wired तो है पर down जाता रहता है internet access। ठीक है, noise from other residents disturb them लिख सकते हैं। ये बहुत important task है, ध्यान से सुनना। That literally people out. But then banana is the first cultivated fruit.
Banana is the first cultivated fruit. It's one of the food items that literally brought people out of the jungle, out of their hunter-gatherer lifestyles, and was there at the dawn of agriculture, which is what helped force human beings into communities. It's really one of the things that helped invent human culture. It's about 7,000 years of history. And the banana, from its center of origin, which is believed to be Papua New Guinea, it spread out with people who traveled in boats across the Pacific into the mainland of Asia and all the way south to Australia, across Indonesia, Micronesia, and eventually They moved as far as Africa, and even possibly to Ecuador, all in this time, and all on paddled boats and wind-driven boats.
Perhaps you remember the dire predictions from the analysts. The fall-off in housing threatened to drag down the entire economy. High energy prices would put the kibosh on consumer spending, and runaway inflation was poised to take off. David Weiss is an economist at Standard & Poor's. He says in the end, none of those things happened in the final 3 months of last year.
अब 3 बेकार टास्क आएंगे जिनकी कोई खास वैल्यू नहीं है। ऑडियो सुनना, इन टास्क को बोलते हैं HMS, हाईलाइट करेक्ट समरी, MCQ।
An idea that essentially sleep allows a homeostatic readjustment of synapses. During wake, you're bombarded by experiences, and that leads to multiple synapses being engaged and their weights being changed. And then what sleep allows, and specifically actually slow wave sleep, is a pruning back off those unimportant synapses. So it's kind of like, I imagine in some senses, the judicial pruning of your roses to get a nicer flower. So the idea is that the slow wave sleep is able to prune back synapses that are energetically wasteful, but are also wasteful in an information processing account because they're adding noise. And that clearer, crisper signal then translates into improved performance the next day.
It was D, but I've just chosen. That's okay. You don't have to go. अब एक और आ गया ये बेकार टास्क।
What is classical physics? Let's start with the easiest, perhaps. What is physics? Physics is the study of the natural world. It's the study of the physical world, the world we live in. It's experimental science, and it's really the heart, the core of all other experimental sciences. Physics goes beyond just a simple description of nature. It's an attempt to unify a broad variety of phenomena that we observe in the world, both the natural world and the technological world. We're looking for the underlying principles, the explanation, the prediction. We would like to be able to really understand the world around us, measurable things in particular. Physics studies matter and energy, space and time, studies particles and waves, forces and motion. These are a lot of words that we use. We have deep intuitive sense about what those words mean. And part of what we're going to be doing in this course is to start looking carefully at each of these words. What do I mean by energy? What do I mean by force? How would I define that in a laboratory and measure it? And what use is it? How does it help me to understand things about the world?
MCQ single, the only maximization predicted the lack of it.
We identified 15 priority projects which are supposed to be urgent and immediate needs of adaptation. And these projects, the first one is slightly being implemented, but there is so much bureaucracy behind the funding of a project that it still hasn't been implemented properly. So if these were urgent and immediate needs, then how come it's not being implemented on an urgent and immediate basis? Because the fund is not there. Even if the fund is there, some bureaucratic things are holding it behind. There are some the funds, they say like you have to have certain infrastructures in place and certain things have to be in place for us to fund this additional climate change. But the funds are, what everyone says in these climate change conferences, are not enough. They're just not enough.
दो या तीन बेकार टास्क्स, इनकी आदत है ये दो होंगे या तीन होंगे. सेलेक्ट मिसिंग वर्ड्स, एक या दो होंगे, ये दोनों.
When I was 14 years old, a visionary visited my school. The man was a pioneer in new technologies, and he had come to announce how the world I was growing up in was on the verge of radical change. He brandished a VHS cassette and announced that television was going to be transformed forever. Using the power of VHS, everyone would make their own TV programs. Instead of accepting the bland output of comedy and drama from the existing networks, we would simply take control ourselves and become producers as well as consumers. TV stations were going to close, corporations would fold, and a new wave of creativity was about to be unleashed. To me, at that age, it seemed like impeccable logic, and the scenario he described seemed inevitable. Over the following years, it became clear that what he had predicted was certainly not coming true, and I began to think of him as an idiot.
बीप बजेगी लास्ट में, आपको बताना है क्या आएगा उसमें बीप बजेगा.
We don't really have a free trade regime. Free trade would mean that you took away all barriers to trade, all impediments to a level playing field. We don't have a level playing field. For instance, the United States and the EU subsidize agriculture. That means that producers in these countries get money for producing. They don't just rely on the market. Free trade would be just rely on the market. Almost half their income comes from government subsidies. Somebody might say they actually spend more money farming in Washington than they farming the land. So the problem is that developing countries trying to give subsidies have to compete with this highly subsidized American and European agriculture. So even if they were just as efficient, even if they were twice as efficient, they would have a
हाईलाइट इनकरेक्ट वर्ड्स, चूज द वर्ड जो गलत है.
Over half of people had what we call remote symptoms, no asthma, Easterlies. They thought about and managed their asthma as an acute episodic illness, the way someone would treat a cold or a flu. They felt when they had their wheezing or shortness of breath, that's when they had their asthma. And it made perfect sense for them to use their quick release medicines and their chronic control medicines then. But once they started feeling better, they felt there was no reason for using those medicines because they felt okay.
I sneezed in between. I don't know if I missed a word, but that's okay. Consumers, of course, are also keeping an eye on profits. Consumers, of course, are also keeping an eye on profits, especially.
Consumers, of course, are also keeping an eye on prices, especially at the gas pump. When gasoline topped $3 a gallon last year, many drivers lost their enthusiasm for SUVs and started paying renewed attention to MPG. Another question mark for the industry is whether consumers and policymakers will maintain that focus on fuel efficiency, with gas prices in much of the country now closer to $2 a gallon.
Most of the students had not considered this issue before.
डबलिंग ऑफ वर्ड्स कर सकते हो, अगर आपको हैव और हैज में प्रॉब्लम है दोनों लिख सकते हो। नेक्स्ट में लिख के दिखा दूंगा।
When workers ask for higher wages, companies often raise prices.
दोनों लिख दिए, आस्क्ड या आस्क्स दोनों लिख दिए। प्राइजेस बोला था उसने, बट मैंने दोनों लिख दिए। पहला लेटर कैपिटल लिख दूं, लास्ट में फुल स्टॉप लगा दिया। व्हेन वर्कर्स आस्क, आस्क, आस्क्स भी लिख दूं, तीन लिख देता हूँ, जो भी सही होगा। वैसे तो वर्कर्स है तो आस्क ही आएगा, बट मैं कर देता हूँ।
The war will principally involve development of new chemical processes.
योर बोला, न्यू बोला, दोनों लिख दिए, ठीक है। Your new role principally involved the new chemical process, ठीक है। चलो, ओके। ये जो मैंने मॉक टेस्ट आप लोगों को करके दिखाया, इसके पीछे एक ही इंटेंशन है कि आप लोग किसी भी तरह 9 बैंड्स ले आओ। बस एक ही इरादा, एक ही मकसद है, और कोई मकसद नहीं है। वरना मुझे क्या जरूरत पड़ी है 2 घंटे बैठने की, वो चीजें करने की जिसकी जिसको कोई नहीं करता लाइव। मैं इसीलिए करके दिखा रहा हूं ताकि आप लोग 90 के रिजल्ट्स की ऐसी बाढ़ ले आओ जो हमारे ग्रुप में रोज वैसे ही होती है। एक ही मकसद है, एक ही ऑब्जेक्टिव है। प्लीज डू नॉट लेट मी डाउन। मैंने बहुत मेहनत ऑलरेडी करता भी हूं, कर भी रहा हूं, दिन रात एक कर रहा हूं, चाहे वो आपके रिप्लाईज को लेकर के हो, चाहे आपके किसी भी चीज को लेकर के हो। आई नीड रिजल्ट्स नाउ, ठीक है। ये मेरी तरफ से आपको एक थोड़ा सा एक वो था। मैं आपको 2-4 चीज़ें बता दूं। एमसीक्यू मल्टीपल रीडिंग के छोड़ने हैं, लिसनिंग के, क्योंकि टाइम है, वो आपको अटेम्प्ट कर सकते हो, क्योंकि ऑडियो तो पूरी सुननी पड़ती है लिसनिंग में। यही सब कुछ आपको, मैंने गलतियां भी की हैं, आई एम नॉट सेइंग कि मैंने गलतियां नहीं की, बट मैं इन गलतियों के साथ 9 बैंड्स लेता हूं। मैंने यही तो दिखाना था कि नोबडी इज परफेक्ट। ये मत सोचना ये तो पता नहीं कितना परफेक्ट होगा। आपके सामने 2-2 वर्ड्स लिखे हैं। दैट्स इट एवरीवन, ऑल द वेरी बेस्ट फॉर योर एग्जाम्स। थैंक यू। चलो।